Was there anything that you saw that was not anticipated in the work that you had done leading up to the release?
Well, we had thought last week when the PC shipment data came out that there was a good likelihood that the OEM numbers would be stronger than we had originally thought before the quarterly PC numbers had come out, and that's what happened. So that outperformed. But we saw another strong quarter of cloud growth. Azure outperformed, Office 365, which is even bigger, outperforms, had some acceleration of growth there. So total cloud revenues exceeded our forecast by $500 million. And as you pointed out, the intelligent cloud business for the quarter was the largest by revenue and for income, though not for the year. And we would expect that the Azure momentum will continue strongly for the next number of years.
So we hear IBM trying to bolster its cloud business, and sometimes we attribute some weakness in the results or lower revenues to not being quite as successful. Is Microsoft, is it a zero-sum game? Is Microsoft's gain IBM's loss, or how does that work in terms of the cloud?
Well, of course, there's competition.
Who else?
But this is a growing market. This is a new phenomenon. I've been following tech for over 3 decades now, and this is a fascinating thing to observe. Not only the broad market growth, but Microsoft's recovery in the last few years, as Becky and I were just saying.
We were just talking about that before.
And so, of course, IBM can't win every contract, Microsoft can't win every contract, but clearly they have been the largest now for well over 2 years in total cloud revenue, very strong margin expansion. And the strategy overall, and for cloud specifically, is clearly working in terms of hybrid computing, addressing specific end markets. And so the strategy, the depth of technology, the investments they've made are all clearly working.
I was blown away when I started reading through. They've had double-digit earnings growth, I think, for 9 quarters consecutively. Yeah. I mean,
with more to come.
With more to come. What happened? What did Satya do?
Well, we've talked about this. I've been on a number of times, and I think it's the focus on where the growth was going to be. It's the scaling of the cloud business, so you're going to get margin expansion there. There has been remarkable resiliency in older businesses, something we typically wouldn't have seen, but there it is. We've seen the older server software businesses continuing to do well, and in fact, strongly outperformed our expectation, at least for the quarter. And that's a very profitable business. And so it's all the pieces coming together, but particularly for new growth areas.
So you see Azure growth of 64%, and you wonder how long that could continue, especially when it was 89% a year earlier, and sequentially, last quarter was 73%, but it's still such a staggering number. I mean, does that stay above 50% for?
For the time being, at least the next number of quarters. When you think about it in absolute terms, to your point on scale, we think that by fiscal 21, the June 21 year, Azure revenues could be larger than their entire cloud revenues were in fiscal 18. And be not that far behind the Office 365 business, which to date has been larger. And so I expect this to continue to be a much, much larger business with total cloud revenues clearly continuing to grow with improving margins.
So how should we look back? So 2014. Satya has been there for 5 years. How do we look at the previous tenure of? We always come back to this at Ballmer. Was it spring-loaded, or was he just positioning it to? I don't remember any watershed events in social media or any of the things
Nothing
that
else.
were going.
Ballmer picked Satya.
And he picked, but was it spring-loaded for this, or was it just not?
It shows 2 things. One, that management do matter.
What was Ballmer? He gets an A, he gets a B+. What does Ballmer get for positioning?
Without giving him a letter grade, he set the stage. We've talked about this. And so clearly the pieces were there, and managements matter in terms of how you use those pieces and focus the company. They killed off the phone business. Remember the Nokia acquisition? They killed that off. That was the correct thing to do. And
which is
when you look
still
at
amazing that he saw to do that, having come and spent some time from there.
But it was a very decisive thing to do. And the investments in sales, in R&D, focusing on the right areas, reorganizing the company in certain ways, as we see now with the reporting segments, those were all the right things to do. And identifying and adhering to a very well-articulated strategy. Since Satya became CEO, there's been this phrase that I've really liked that they've used. They call it ubiquitous computing and ambient intelligence, meaning computing everywhere. It's hyperscale, it's multi-scale, and they have almost unique capabilities in doing that.
I mean, if you put any type of, if you think the stock's going to grow at just a reasonable percentage a year, I mean, this is going to be a $2 trillion company in, you know.
Maybe the next bogey. I mean, tomorrow's the 7th anniversary of our recommending the stock.
Way to go.
Yeah, and so
you still like it, even although
it.
So much of it is baked in with the market at this point. You think there's still more.
It reflects a lot, but there's more to go.
Yeah.
We raised our price target just 2 weeks ago to 150.